Yeah.
Law independent living in Niagara County.
Probably left the.
Come on, Douglas, sit down.
Oh, I can't be by you. No, we can't go.
I've never seen
People
it set up this way for candidates.
We're not.
Not yet.
Yeah, seriously.
In a minute.
When are you gonna run for something?
I'm like, oh, yesterday, my after, they said, yo, you jumped in the door, he said, you're running for mayor, I'm, he said, you got my boy, bro, I'm running with her, he said, I'm alongside you all the way. I said, hey, because you
Sit over here,
be too honest, be too honest over here, I'll be like, be rabbit, ain't my, I'll be like, tell these people something they don't know about me. You know? I feel like that's the way it should be, you know, your cards based off all trucks, you know? That's the guy I'm voting for, the woman I'm voting for, the one who's vulnerable, you know? Don't tell us what we think we want to hear. Oh man, action. That'll be my running line right there.
Oh, okay.
So you'd be a man in action.
Yeah.
What questions do you have for me today? No.
Yeah, we got a couple of people. Stand. Okay.
Can we get it?
I don't think so. Unless they, did you guys have questions? Any
Um,
questions?
usually brings questions.
Can I get a copy? Yeah. I mean,
Oh, you don't want to sit next to it?
No, because that's on camera.
It's a nice thing. Nice drive by.
Yeah, just got that.
Yeah.
No, you won't.
She's not right. Guaranteed all that time. You're leaning into it. Like you're the post game. When they got the post game interviews and the crazy fans behind her all through. That's what I'm seeing. You were here, remember we had him up there? Wasn't there a podium?
Yeah, I'm saying, this is the first time I've been there. It was,
We had a podium up here.
They stood up there.
we had,
You guys decide.
we had it over there before too, when we were on this way.
Because weren't there chairs?
Yeah.
There were rows of
Yeah,
chairs, that's what I
these
said.
tables were here.
Yeah, I
Those were that
was
little.
thinking, earlier, I'm like, where did the table?
Yeah, boss pick, I got one card. Use one.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I heard it.
Almost done.
That's all my people,
This stuff is-
I do the.
Okay.
And I emptied out like.
I'm obviously here today, so I'm not working on it.
Yeah, I'm like,
You'll get it by tomorrow, I
Make it trade here.
Right.
Do it.
Oh, plenty of options right there.
That's kind of gross.
For real.
I'm not gonna steal it.
Pull up my forward, they're clear. View. And smooth, sweet, so smooth. I don't even know the name of them things, but they're freaking amazing. You got a whole like pot of them.
So it's gonna be like.
It's but I
Feel it,
I
too.
like the feeling the weight of it.
So smooth, right? Too sharp with me on.
I love fighting.
No, back to her, you crazy, I'm never gonna touch it.
Pretty.
Get all,
No, I get two home.
yeah, no. Wrap. Bye.
The old, Postmates. I used to,
I'm a fan of the football team. Are we playing? Why would you be mad at me? It's funny. Zero next week? Question for you. Oh, you got 0 points for that. Suffer the MCL spring.
And think about Verizon, because they have to do that, and they're not that really, but I don't know. So my thing is, I know, which I've never used, I'm a. Or they have Pixel,
Hey, you have any time left?
they have the Pixel 9 Pro.
Okay.
That's the one
I
I
have an
use
iPhone
for.
and I'm not an iPhone user. Honestly, I don't even like the
Okay, I'm not, I'm out,
I switch back on because I have like. There's like gamer everything.
No, I was looking on that.
I suspect.
I'm a Galaxy person, so I'm always too.
Boy.
They have the yellow.
Probably chanting to get
I
something.
love it.
They said, you deserve that. Yo, you said, you deserve that. And they're chanting. That's ruthless.
I'm there, I
Okay,
like
well,
the yields
yeah,
to compare them.
You see that when Deshaun Watson popped his ACL for his Achilles?
No.
The game, the whole, he was in Cleveland at home stadium, and all the fans were chanting, you deserve that. Because of all the rape charges and allegations and all that stuff that happened.
Yeah.
His own fan base. I don't know how that got
I don't
another
know.
opportunity and got
I
paid
know.
$240 million after all that. Why would you even want that distraction down or in your locker room? As a professional sport. Yeah, only.
Everybody bring it off.
You know.
On the players.
Oh. Oh, Atwell?
Yeah.
Come on, bro. You too, Atwell?
Yeah.
No, he was that job.
He was there again.
I think Chris, or Chris, he's, Republic. No, maybe not. Paper puffs back, pooping on the IR. So the 30 seconds to pass, so he might. Means everything. I'm close. Either way.
Yeah, you're Chicago, you start.
I'll win.
They got it. I saw it. In my last.
Yeah. we saw it.
Saturday, Monday, plus Tuesday, Wednesday. The work for the ACE, of course.
Oh.
And I will not. That's for.
Okay, we go for it.
Permit.
No, it's an empire.
Um.
Did they give her a lot, live the experience cards? I'm gonna apply and see what they say. See what that experience for.
I'm gonna pay the $1,700 so that I can get.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be there either way, eventually, right?
So that way I can get my
When
credit.
you get your first, correct.
And then I can get my transfer. And then transfer them for the semester. So the problem is we can't cover. I think they're gonna answer program, we're gonna give her a year.
Yeah. So they will first on.
Yeah, this is their own though, so, you know, I don't. You tell me if that's healthy. So. I mean, I'm nervous. Yeah, it's horrible. Okay.
I mean, you could go.
That's like doing 12 hours versus.
Yeah, you don't have 4 kids, you don't have 3 kids.
The other
You're
two
not-
days, probably
I love to spend time with my kids and going to play, I don't know. Huh?
It's really about Wendell Robinson or.
What are you going for?
Right now it's the business essential certificate. Those like 4 semesters or whatever, like 1 year, and it's just all the core ones to burn. And then,
Look in the Empire.
Yeah. we should go.
You get a lot of credits for your professional experiences and work experience.
Yeah.
And for,
Well,
and they,
I was gonna talk to my, cause they have, I think, a profile,
oh, wait, this
or,
is paying for what?
not a profile, portfolio. I
Every
guess.
semester you have to refill it out, but that's. Well, for bachelor's, then they should decide on it too, but I think they have a social work program. I don't think that.
I'm not doing social work, you know. I'm going for probably, I'm gonna go further.
Any area,
Yeah,
Any-
HR is like.
any area of
anything.
business, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I went and see.
That's why I'm doing business thing, I learned so much about business.
yeah, I love my business classes.
Yeah,
Because I like to, I might wanna do our own restaurant and I can be like.
Yeah, have all that. Yeah, that's important. You could translate that in many areas too.
Like we can both do the cooking, but I'll be like the books and everything, and then we'll be gone the third week. So where's Empire? Like, is that even,
Where's
where's
the
it?
swimming school now? Holland.
It is, so it's in New York.
Yeah, upstate.
Okay, so. You can get like the Pell Grants and stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's the
Because
swimming
I
school.
can do that, I can do fast, but I can,
That's
Pell Grants
oh,
because,
part of that.
well, DeVry is in Illinois.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So even though I'm here, yeah,
I go to WGU, out of Salt Lake City.
yeah. They said,
So for Pell, it's a state, maybe not,
yeah, I
but
can't
Empire State. it's-
get, right, that's what I'm saying, I can't get Pell because
It's
it's
a super-
Illinois.
Yeah.
Is my school.
State University of New York, so yeah.
But what I like about the Valley, what I like about the Valley now, what is I did my research, I just. For a moment, like, hey, I'm going to
How have
school.
you been?
I've been well, how have you been?
So the semester, like 2 different classes.
All right, everybody, we'd like to welcome and do it for now. Ready for the 145th District Assembly.
Good afternoon, all. I appreciate the opportunity to come to the board. I've been before you before. This will be my 5th term, which is be going, God willing, and successfully finishing my 8th year. I will be starting my 9th. Those of you who know me, those of you who sat with me, know my support, my focus, and my true understanding of the needs that are not being fulfilled for the independent living. Just had a discussion on the update of the personal assistant programs, which I gave a speech on the floor last year based on questions that were given to me there. They wanted me to put forward. And I was told that independent living was not going to be put out. Well, when the RFP was written by the Department of Health, they complicated it so that now what was supposed to be what we agreed to in the budget and in the discussions is now somewhat convoluted. We will get that straightened out. We want to delay the implementation to 2025, 2026. We're at the end of 2020. Anyway, the point that I'm getting at is this. Your independent living centers are the best positioned to do the personal assistant programs. They're your clients. You know them. There'll be wraparound, overlapping of their needs. To try and give it to one company in Pennsylvania, which has been thrown out of a few states, it's just an option. Sometimes I really wonder what the mentality of Albany is. And I think it's like they grab ideas that may sound good, but nobody wants to talk about what are the ramifications. The title may look good, but what does page 4, paragraph 17 actually say? Nobody reads. Nobody wants to know what the process. Number 2, we know this. You were promised. Okay, this was when our former governor said, $1, $2, $3. Some of you may have been with us in the war room on the Valley Week when Como was governor. I'm not sure if any of you were there. And we thought we had a victory. They end up giving you $2 year one instead of 1 and then he pulls the other dollar and gives it to some general fund for downstate. So you never got your full $3. When they did the indexing on the wages, I think you might have gotten around 60 cents. So you actually are still behind the workers, I think. And when you look at it, independent living oversees the most. You oversee those that need the help the most to become members of the community. Some of the other issues we've had to deal with is transportation from the main bus line to your work centers. Now, I firmly believe that one of the disadvantages, one of the unfortunate consequences of our former government is with the work centers that ended up closing down because of the wages. Now, you gotta balance both sides. So if an employer has an employee that can box 40 widgets an hour, but they want to help independent work centers, and you may only be doing 20 an hour, okay? They can't expect that employer to pay the same as somebody who can do 40 an hour. Okay, so there has to be some adjustment. It hurt all of them, right? Now, one of the good things is I've seen where some of the centers have opened up recycling. They opened up shredding. Okay, so creativity. Here's the bottom line. We are all the same under this thing. We need to give everybody the same advantages, the same strengths that everyone has. Plus, we need to be in a position to give you quality care assistance financially. If you can start out, and I think it was over 20 some dollars to start out at like here it's 16 something an hour. Well, it gets important. Okay, to stand there and put stuff on shelves is important, but to help someone get through days. So there's still issues that we try and make incremental improvements, but there's still shortages. I know what will happen when it's early January, and I requested that instead of waiting till February for the Albany business, that maybe we do it early January. So we've got more. And with that being said, I'm open for questions, suggestions, and I want you to all to remember, I may not have all the answers, but I am a dedicated, committed team member to help meet all your lives.
I'm new on board.
Hi.
You mentioned Target, I am Joanna. People working at Target, I just moved from Atlanta, I was
Okay.
on. The job workers were making $20-something an hour.
Okay.
And I worked in dialysis for 30 years. During COVID, doing CPR, doing a lot, saving lives. And they were getting paid almost more than me, working at, so a lot of people quit their jobs to go work in fast food, when my job was very stressful, and now I'm way,
You're way
I'm
behind.
considered.
You're way behind. That's why I brought all this up. But you know what's interesting? I'm a lot older than all of you, probably double the age of us. Okay? McDonald's was never supposed to be on head of a certain position. McDonald's was, somebody wants a little extra, high school students, college students. They have tried to make those head of household, and they've ignored head of household positions that are more important for assistance. So I'm on your team.
As far as head of household, the dynamics of families now.
Yeah.
The head of household has mental issues, so you got elderly people working at McDonald's who didn't get the help that they needed, and now trying to bring it up in our society for education. McDonald's is paying their bills.
Well, this is what I'm saying, that these are the focuses that we have to get the message across. Right? And it's difficult because though I have colleagues that probably have never been into an independent living center. Okay, colleagues that may have never understood what their needs are, and what your services are to provide. I'm on your team. I'm just trying to tell you that I recognize where we need to go and that support those premises. I cannot promise you I can wave and hands just one way it's done, but I'm all ears. I'll support it. Yeah.
You remember,
Yes.
So for people that are having mental health crisis, or they might be emotionally disturbed, do you believe that police should be trained and be able to go out with them when,
Go out with whom?
so like maybe a mental health counselor with the police?
Here's what I feel, okay? That first responders, it's not just police, let's talk all first responders. They should become and made aware of the needs to have some assistance in certain things. Okay, and to be there, we support that mental health advocate, and that mental health provider. Okay, be able to write a. The first responders should not be the ones that have to have the extra training because they've got other duties and focus. At some point, you have too much on your plate.
Hey, honey, how are you?
So, yes.
Okay.
That.
Yeah.
Just in.
Hey,
I feel like they need to know. That's a good job.
I'm taking it easy here today.
I said they need to be trained on the need to have somebody with them, but they're not the mental health counselor.
Right.
They have other focuses, okay? And the question was, should they be able to have somebody go with them when there's a mental health crisis? Am I correct? That was the question.
Like,
Hang on, honey, hang on.
program created to, just, so we work for the Addict to Addict program.
Right.
We get a lot of calls, with people that are in distress, mental health, right, and substance abuse. And we have to contact, the mental health services. But what we're finding is, we contact the police, a lot of times it's friendly face, somebody that's been, called a lot. The situation is not handled appropriately.
Possibly, we're brainstorming, okay? And I think that one of the things that might be able to discuss is every shift, every first responder should have a mental health specialist on that shift in that facility that they can call on if they run into a mental, to have them come. To have the police trained enough to be aware of when they need call and they have other assistance, okay, now. I'm not saying that's tangible, what I'm saying is based on our discussion, which is a roundtable. That seems to be a logical approach to it, that in addition to police officers, okay, or first responders, they should also include in their job performance and job descriptions a mental health counselor for so many people in the city. Like Niagara Falls, if they have one on every shift, okay, just sitting back, that they can call. I think that would be help resolve some of those issues. All right, where the police would be there, that's a full to keep crowds away while the expert is dealing with the crisis. Yes, I think it's a wonderful question and an absolute opening discussion and maybe helping improve some of the assistance.
Across the street, that's what they were all initially that they were trying to do. I don't know what they're doing now, but they're supposed to social worker with mental health on every shift, ready and willing to go out when there's stuff calling.
But that would be calling in an outside agency to come in. I'm talking about actually, they take the oath as the police officer with specialty. Okay, where they're not gonna go out if they're shooting a murder or something else. They're only gonna be gone, be driven to that location when there's a need for a mental health counselor to assist that police officer in what is happening. Okay, and I don't know the answer whether what that is, but I think in response, I think that's something that maybe we can start looking at and talking about.
Don't make me.
All right. I'll just ask the first one. What is the single asset that you bring with you to the office?
Single asset, I think, at the office. Well, number one, I'm 79 and I'm not looking for anything first. Okay, I'm here to give back to the community, but in all honesty, you know, help me in my background. Okay? I'm an attorney. Right, over 50 years. I'm a combat. I'm a retired judge. The only reason I'm still not the judge is when I turn 70, it's mandatory. I feel that my entire background and my upbringing in this city and in this area, okay, and I've gone through, let's take the economics of Niagara Falls. I've gone to the top until it hit rock bottom, and I think I can see things coming down. I was around. I was walking home from school in the show company. I was on St. Joseph's Grammar School. I'll never forget, I was walking on Ferry Avenue when I felt the ground tremble. They started building the power plant. We had 110,000 people in the city at that time. We are now down to 47,000. We had 110,000 of employed individuals that had of household jobs. Okay. I've been around to see that when we were at 110,000 and all the plants were going, we had those corporate executives who were like the city fathers who were kind of overseeing. They were, the job wages were what, 3 shifts on every plant. And all of a sudden, I think the city fathers fell asleep, switch, and never ever saw the decline come. Okay, so what do I bring to it? I bring to it history, I bring to it knowledge, and I bring to it a cycle of things always repeat themselves. And I've been trying to push to get some city fathers group together. We don't have a chamber of commerce in the city of Niagara Falls. Can you believe it? We are one of the wonders of the world. We are the second largest tourist city after New York City. We do not have a chamber of commerce to go out and try and assist the mayor, city government, in bringing outside businesses. So it's many, not just a single. I have many facets that I feel help bring. And when it comes to understanding the needs, okay, and understanding what we need to help on this vulnerable. My experience on the bench has expressed that. If you ask anybody, those that don't like, everybody I ever put in jail, they tell you I love them. And you know, they love me. That's because everybody a chance. My focus there was to give assistance. If I saw young kids, okay, I got firm with them like a parent would do. Okay, but I didn't throw them under the bus. Those that I finally had to put in jail were because I had given them 3 or 4 chances. Okay, so it's just background and experience on these and the launching of this community. Yeah, why don't you speak a list? I'll read them.
Question, housing.
I'm sorry.
My name is Erin. I oversee the addict and family team here in Niagara County, and one of the main issues that we've dealt with, and especially currently, is housing. For a lot of the individuals that we serve and assist.
When I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, we instituted the land bank law. Okay, and then we put money in that 12 year. Now, the advantage to the land bank is this. City-owned properties that have been in tax foreclosure can be given to the land bank. They don't have to go up for public auction, so some guy in California gets $100 and does. I had, and I don't want to be chastised, but the former administration, we started meetings at the land bank. I had gone out and I had recruited a couple good friends who are pretty wealthy with this concept. Okay? Land bank comes up with a contract agreement, and you have to put up a bond if you don't do the job. You build or repair or replenish a house. And I wanted to focus on 4th, 5th, and Street on those properties. Okay. Now you give them to the land bank, the land bank puts it together. Once it's done and they complete the project, you turn it over to them for $1. They go back on the tax rolls, but you've increased the housing stock. Former administration in the middle of its meeting, when I brought it up, said, we'd lose control, yeah, they got up and walked out of the meeting. I think what we need is. We don't just need to keep saying we need it, I think we need to get creative, the land bank is. The vehicle that I think we've done, I just chastised the mayor, they had a public auction on those vacant lots. I wanted them to give them to the land bank, so that we can then develop housing within the city. Okay, so we have to think outside the box, we have to get creative and look at the resources that we in the legislature have put there to assist. My time's up.
Your time's up.
They want to talk to me.
I know.
They're gonna go through all the questions.
You're ready to come all day.
I'll come back if you want.
I'm like, we-
I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. I appreciate your support. I think you all know I'm always there for you. Come see me early January. Let's not wait till February. Okay, please.
Thank you.
Thank you again, everybody. Appreciate it.
I'm happy.
Thank you. Take care.
We will be in contact.
Pardon?
We will be in contact with.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Nice meeting.
That they get money when they come here, and they get, and buy them the paper, it's we go to the bank and get this money, and I only heard that they're not paying tax on it for so many years. Right now, I get the same opportunities.
Yeah.
That's for the Jeffrey Owens running for a 1,742.
Good afternoon, how's everybody doing?
Good.
As she said, I'm Jeffrey Elder, right now I'm the current Niagara County legislator for the fourth district here, and I'm running for the 145th, against a person that just left out. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up right here in Niagara Falls, New York. Graduated from the South Senior High School, which I thought was high school in Niagara Falls, and then I went on to I joined the United States Air Force right out of high school. almost 27 years in the United States Air Force. The last 2 of those years, I served on Air Force One with different presidents, President Bush, Clinton, and Bush, which was wonderful. I actually brought President Clinton in the Buffalo people like Jeff Elder, President Hall, and it was wonderful. One of the highlights of that was my mother and father. I got to introduce the president to my mother and father. The president made my mother and father feel like I was supposed to report me coaching. That was just wonderful. Yes, their only son. So, and then after retired from the military, I Pentagon for years as a civilian. Then from there, I went to the Federal Emergency Management Agency as a contractor, and then over to the Department of Home Security. And then I spent my last 7 years in the DC area at the Department of State running emergency management programs. I left all of that to come back home. Reason being, before I left going to the military, my grandmother pulled me aside. She said, "Baby, never forget where you came from." I've been around the world. I could imagine a young man from Niagara Falls, New York, travel the world. 3 different presidents calling me by my first name. That's outstanding. So I use that opportunity to encourage young men and women that whether they look like me or not, look, this is things that I've done. You can also do that also. And people often say, "Hey, Jeff, you know what? You traveled all over, you probably got some pretty good stories about that." And I said, "Yeah, I do." And I actually go look at it. It's called Niagara Falls to Air Force One and back. And I use that when I'm talking to the youth, what have you, to give them that encouragement. So when I came back to Niagara Falls, just quick story. In 1998, I was on a 14-hour flight with President Clinton. I told him about my political aspirations. And I told him how I was from Niagara Falls and how in the mid-70s, Bob Barker bought the world of Niagara Falls, New York. And Niagara Falls had it going on. And every time I came, something else was wrong. And I was like, not doing what you need to be doing, I've learned a lot of stuff, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna take care of it, I'm gonna help them out. And the president said, you know what? Jeff, I like that, I'd like to help you back. And I chuckled, I said, no, Mr. President, I'm serious. President grabbed me by the hand, looked me straight in the eye and said, Jeff, I'm serious. To this day, we have communication. So, fast forward, I came back home, I ran for mayor, I didn't win, I ran as independent. So, then, a legislative seat it wasn't open, 10-year incumbent. I ran against him and I beat him by 2 votes in the primary. And everybody's like, oh, my vote doesn't count, my vote doesn't count. I have a testimony that each and every one of your votes count. So fast forward to where we are now. I'm running in the 145th. Why am I in the 145th? Because with those political aspirations, I know how to get things done. I've seen the last 8 years, that my has been there the last 8 years, and there has not been a whole bunch that's happened. If you look around, are you satisfied with the way things are? Right now, our district, the 145th district, gets the least amount of funding from New York. This is Niagara Falls, New York, the honeymoon capital, the honeymoon capital of the world. Millions of people come here. Niagara Falls is a catalyst that brings people into Western New York, and then when they get here, they go to other places and go to Canada. We need them to stay here and spend those hard-earned dollars here. When I get in there, I will be in the majority. And when you're in the majority, whether you like it or not, that's where the funds go, those that are in the majority. So that's exactly what I want to do. And I spent 27 years defending our democracy. Whether if you believe it or not, that's the reason that the United States came about, because we had monarchs over in Europe that were ruled. We don't want that here, and that's what we fought for. And to keep those things alive, we can make sure that we put the people in office that will defend our democracy. That will make sure when I joined the United States Air Force, I swore to defend the Constitution of the United States, and that's what I do each and every day. I'm a Christian man. I've not stepped out of bed before thanking God for giving me the opportunity to be here another day and to do His will, and I don't go to bed without thanking Him for yet another day. So, with that being said, I'd like to go ahead and open it up to you all, and just let you know a little bit about me, and now I'll bring up the question from each and every one of you.
My name is Erin. I oversee the Addict family team here in Independent Living, Niagara County. One of the main issues we've been dealing with consumers that we serve is the housing crisis.
Yes, ma'am.
Is getting our individuals that we serve when they come out of outpatient services, finding them either the transition housing, or if they're stable enough, get them into supportive housing so they can retake their lives. Housing is a big issue that we're dealing with right now.
The question that you're asking is,
What are your ideas about the housing crisis that we?
well, first of all, the housing crisis situation is horrible in Niagara Falls, New York. You look around, all these neighborhoods that used to be vibrant neighborhoods, now somebody is holding on to those. I won't mention names, but we need to make sure. One thing that when I ran for mayor, my plan was to make sure that whenever we have vacant houses, let's allow some of our residents to get those houses and to build up those houses, to get equity in those houses, because when you have your own house, you have pride in ownership. And when you have pride in ownership, you're going to take care of it. Your neighbors are going to make sure that you're taking care of it. But when you have a house that somebody is renting and they live in New York City, they live in Canada or wherever else, all they're looking at is the bottom line, those dollars. And that needs to stop. And we need to have housing, affordable housing, first of all, but we need to have housing that's accessible for all. And that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure. Like I said, it's not about Jeffrey Eldon. It's about knowing people, and it's about knowing how to do things. The Department of State had the best, it's known for having the best diplomats in the world. I've learned from some very wonderful people. And so when I approach things, You just go in and not kick the door in and just jump on their desk, and you're not gonna get anywhere with that. You have to approach it in a diplomatic way. That's one of the things that I've learned how to do, and that's one of the things that I would love to do when I come back here to help each and every one of us, not each and every one of you, each and every one of us. Because when I'm helping myself, I'm helping the vice versa. Yes.
I'm gonna be in community outreach. Yeah, so, I recently moved back here in somewhat in person. When I bring people from, if you have a family reunion here, where do we go? We have to go to Canada, we have to go somewhere else. When the tourists come here, what I see is homeless people sleeping on the street, people asking for money, mental illness, people not getting the help that they need.
Yes.
And we're here trying to do this as a job, that's our job, helping, but we need help,
Yes, ma'am.
we definitely need help.
Yes. I've been to all 50 states, I've been to all of our territories, and I've been to each continent except for Canada. I plan on going there one day. But everywhere that I've gone, not only did people hear about or know about Niagara Falls, either they had been here or they were planning a trip here. So my thing is, and for myself, I'm down at the falls in the summertime, a minimum of 5 days a week. It drive through just to hear that sound. You know, and we need to make sure that those people that are spending their hard-earned dollars have something that they can come over, not look at Canada and be like, wow, all that's going on over there, what's going on over there? We need to make sure that we have something going on here that people can enjoy, that people can be proud of. And it hurts me whenever I go to Canada and I see.
So tourists.
Well, no, I didn't get to that yet. I didn't get to that yet.
Like us.
Yes, yeah, but
People that, I'm just saying, I understand what you're saying about your limited time, so I know the tourists can come in and have a good time, whatever, but I'm talking to people I see every day
Yes, ma'am.
who don't have that.
So what we need is, our tourist industry is April, maybe to November, but then what about those jobs afterwards? So we need to have some type of industry in here that will keep that going all year round. And tourism is wonderful. You know, people come from all over the world, but we need other things in here that will help sustain us, that will help us feel better about ourselves. That when we walk down the street, you can give somebody $1 or something like that. You really, and that's one of the things that I say. Are you satisfied with the way things are right now? If you're not satisfied if you are satisfied with the way things are, leave them as they are. But if you're not satisfied, it's time to make some change.
Okay, what can you do?
First of all, being in the majority, that's how you get funds into your district, by being in the majority. And when you're in the majority, you can approach them. Hey, look, I have this program on. Look at what the assembly person, people in North Tonawanda, for example. $4 million for that water treatment plant and what have you. They have the money coming in because they are in the majority. What if we have, and one of the biggest things that I'm going to be jumping on is the New York State Power Authority. The New York State Power Authority should be named the Niagara Falls Authority because that's the only reason that they're here. We are paying exorbitant prices for our electricity and what have you, and it's being shipped downstate. That's not right for us, but who has control of that? Not the people that are in office right now. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for change. It's time for change.
Also, you know, working internship at the schools, like health.
Yes, ma'am.
Those should be the type of field trips that the schools take instead of going to Barker or wherever to enhance their, to enhance their profits.
Yes.
But a lot of kids have never seen the falls, and I'm like,
That was one of the basics that we did when I went to 93rd Street School. One of our field trips was a trip to the falls, a trip to the aquarium.
Right.
We have wonderful things here that we need to make sure that we are getting our kids involved in. And I'm with the programs down at the aquarium. Like I said, I'm at the falls 5 times a week, a minimum. And it's just such a wonderful thing. And my wife, she tells me, she says, you know, I think it's wonderful. It's because she's usually with me. And she said, I think it's wonderful that you feel this way about frogs. I said, this is why I came home. I mean, everywhere that I've gone, in fact, on the presidential cruise, before I got on the presidential cruise, you have what was called a volant spouse. And the volant spouse was, you would take your spouse on the flight and they would fly over Niagara Falls. And for me, anytime they were doing that, on the plane, like, yeah, it's my home down there, you know, and I be telling them all about it and what have you. But I have so much pride in my area. People in the DC area, when I left that Department of State job, I didn't retire from the Department of State. I just left that job. And I came back home and everybody said, why did you go back to Niagara Falls? Home's where the heart is. And first of all, when I came back in 2019, I got almost 3 years living over my mother before she passed. And my father just passed 6 months ago. And I got 5 years with my dad. So I don't have, hang on, they both died of cancer. But I'm so proud to be a Niagara Falls resident. And I'm proud to stand in front of you and let you know that I work for you. And if I'm doing what I'm not supposed to be doing, you have to move me out of there. I think it's time to move somebody in that can make a difference. So everybody make sure it's a registration card. Everybody make sure that they vote and a very consequential election. So.
That was there when I was.
Yes.
I saw that we went down there, nothing's on Friday there. Not saying, can I tell you, I would do that. We went to the wedding. What it was down there when I was better bit.
There's some very rough areas.
Homestead, a lot of homeless. I can believe I'm here and see where they were. Me and my wife drove around, we had 20 people.
It starts on this side of the globe. It goes all the way over to Hyde Park, and it comes up Hyde Park to Whitney Avenue, and comes up to 22nd, and it goes up to Buffalo Avenue. So these two high rises, it cuts out these high rises. But
Oh, when you say Buffalo Avenue, the water treatment, or where does?
on this side of Buffalo Avenue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. And everybody, I have cards, can I leave some of these? So this will let you know my numbers on the back, and I have a website. People always say that I put my number on things for a reason because I need. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. All right, have a great day.
Thank you so much. All these buildings that is available. I'm sorry. Yeah, but they got that style or something they supposed to be working.
Should be able to, if these people are buying them from wherever to.
Yeah.
They're
They're just investors, yeah.
These things, like, I just like, our investors should not be able to. That's great, should not be able to, different people like.
They don't take care of them, no work, they're not getting any work done for people that are locally based.
Put the houses down the street, next time home buyer, they tell you, you can live in that house for 10 years. Why not make it here for a certain amount of time? Is it? I thought it was guys. And let me tell you, I did that program 20-some years ago. You pay for the lien on your house, without even you, it'll tell you that. You finance my house, and they got something on your house. Come to find out, when you take that class. Yeah, no, now that I got to refurbish just the first time. Oh, yeah. I said, well, you get across the street, you know, he did, I said, I would have never known, that would have happened to me, that might be the wrong person, instead of my children. I must agree to go.
No, you're so excited, and your first time, so they take advantage of it, yeah. They here, sign here, sign here, sign here.
5 years, 5 years, 20 years later, you still had it on. Yeah. I told them, well, frustrated. Because I didn't get on.
Right here.
They're not great, but. I'm not
trying to sell them. I'm
not a baker. But it shows.
But I'll take a brownie.
You want one of these cups? I'm tossing it.
Well, this whole area that was talking about.
I think what are you gonna do? I think what he's trying to say is that my assumption was that he's gonna take the ones that you made for tourism and then. That's just said that, yeah.
You know, like. You're not gonna get that money from the. You're not.
You know what I'm saying?
Even when I was in Atlanta, they called me.
Started to.
Yeah.
There he is.
There he is.
How are you guys?
Nice
to see you.
Okay, next I'd like to introduce Senator Robert Ork.
Good afternoon. I'm sure you have, I don't know how deep you are in the forum or how many folks you've heard from today, so I want to be respectful that you've no doubt heard from at least a couple before me. I am Senator Rob Ford. I represent the 62nd district. For those of you who don't know, the 62nd district is where we are right now. I have all of Niagara County, I have all of Queens County, and I have the western portion of Monroe. So I have Spencerport, Brockport, Hamlin, Parma, and Clarkson in Monroe County. I've represented this district I'm in my 10th year, which is hard to believe for me, but it's true. With the exception of a few towns in Monroe, the district I've represented is the district I just described to you. So I represented Niagara County for that entire time, as well as Queens. I was the mayor of North Tonawanda before this, for 5 years. And so became very familiar, certainly with some local government issues, especially I think as it relates to some of the independent living community, accessibility issues that I was not really aware of before, but became aware of. I used to work with Sarah Longo, who used to be here. I think I don't think she's any longer, but she used to be. And then in my role as the chair for 4 years, I was the chair of Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities Committee in the Senate. And so in that role, certainly I spent a lot of time speaking with those who have intellectual or developmental disabilities, people of all ranges, people who are very independent, and people who obviously are maybe less so and dependent on others additional services. So in that role, this is not a unfamiliar spot for me, and I would think most of the subject matter is not completely familiar to me. So that's the good news. This year, like every state legislator, I'm up for re-election. I don't have an appointment, but I didn't think that was a reason inherently not to just come and at least show some face time, answer some questions, a conversation, especially as you are getting the district. And so with that, I will turn it over. I don't know, there's a question, how do you do it, but I'm open, I'll open it up to all of you guys.
I'm brownie in my mouth.
Brownie in your mouth. How's the brownie? Is it good? That's important. That's important.
Okay. I wouldn't think they came out good well.
There it was.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Bill, please.
My name is Erin Zich. I oversee the Addict to Active and Family team here in Niagara County. So we're busy. A question that I've been asking, because it's something that has definitely recently, past few months definitely has come up, housing.
Yeah.
Housing issue for not only individuals that we serve, but I know housing crisis in general, but definitely for the individuals in the population that we serve, it's finding the suitable housing once they've exited inpatient, once they start to get back on track, is finding that secure, safe and sturdy housing for them to continue to go down that road. The right.
Right, you're talking about folks who are coming out of treatment or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So I think we could probably be here all afternoon talking about housing, because it is a, you know, if people who have, you know, college graduates, people who are professionals, if they are having challenges finding home, then you can bet as you move down, people with all kinds of other additional challenges, whether it be income, whether it be limited, you know, physical or intellectual limitations, whether it be, you know, coming out of recovery. You can bet that there's gonna be a real acute shortage there, because there's already a shortage everywhere else, right? And so, and of course, when there's a shortage, the way the market works, there's a shortage of something. So that's something, right? Because that's sort of the law of demand. So one of the things, I don't think New York as a state, I'll go broad and then I'll try to get down into your specific area. I don't think New York State is a very high cost state. We all know that. It just is. And there's some reasons we could all probably say are good that drive those costs. But there are areas that I think are more reasonable. People maybe disagree on areas that drive those costs to do better at. But the reality is it's a high cost state. And as a result, building a home in New York, if you're going to build a new home, it's expensive. It's more expensive here than other states. Okay. And there's things we do as a state that add to those costs. And there's, you know, and again, I'm not saying all those are inherently bad, but there are reasons why it's more expensive to build a home. And as a result of that, I think in this market, in this economy, home builders, they make money by building homes. I'll be very clear. They want to build more homes. The reason they're because they don't believe they can sell, that they're building as many homes as they think they can move. Right? They're not going to build a home to have it sit there because that's going to be bad for them, right? So, because they have to outlay the labor costs and all of that. So that it begs the question, how do we spur more building? First of all, how do we increase the stock of homes? I do think there's some things happening at a global level that impacts this, rates, interest rates. As those start to come back down, you might see more movement. But right now, you know, you're looking at 8%, 9%, 7.5%. I'm still in my house, home at 3.25%. You know, there's no way I would ever sell my house and move into an 8% loan. I'm gonna get less house for more money, basically, right? So all of that, you know, creates sort of a bottleneck for people who really need a home, maybe not doesn't need to get a brand new home or something. I think we need to do better to spur build a home. I also think we need to focus. I was talking in the hallway with Todd Anderwood about, you know, on the disability side, how do we maybe stipulate more homes that are built for people that make it more accessible for people that have physical handicaps, limitations, whatever it might be. Because I do think there's a population of people who would like to be in a home, but they can't, or it's harder for them to get into that. On the recovery side, there's this long-standing issue, meaning what do you do when that person leaves?
They all fall in the.
And right, and where,
Yeah.
and then they use again.
Yeah.
I think, and there's a lot of factors there, though, right? There's a lot of factors. I wish I could say, oh, if we just did this one thing, it would fix, because some of it is support. They might not have a great, they don't have a mom to go to, or if they do, maybe they burn that relationship. I've seen a lot of, you know, people in recovery, their family relationships aren't great because they're impacted because of the addiction. In some cases, their parent might also have an addiction issue. And so you don't necessarily know that, because that might not be a great situation. So what do? You put them in a place, I know there's some, for lack of a better, I know it's not the right term, but they used to be called like, halfway homes, right? Middle. But I've heard a lot of those places are rampant with use, unfortunately, right? They're not really. And so that's a horrible thing. You have someone who they're trying to recover, and they're in a place that's surrounded by other users or people who are selling and that. So it does become an issue, I think, in some cases, also where you want to have them, give them access to home or an apartment or somewhere. It is also where they can go continue to get their services, right? You don't want to put them out in a rural place necessarily, because I can tell you, if you live in Newton, it's hard to get to it. to your treatment facility or, whatever. it is. And we have Horizon, which is fantastic in Niagara. But my point is you want to put them somewhere either on a bus route, which I don't know about transportation, or you want them somewhere where we can get them to the services they need. So I think that really goes back to, okay, do we stipulate where there's government, there's a lot of subsidized homes out there, being subsidized housing. Do we stipulate that some have to be for people in recovery, or some have to? That's the only thing that I can think of, that conversation, because otherwise you're at the mercy of the market, you're at the mercy of, and we all know, listen, when I was mayor, they put a home, it's an existing home, they brought in some folks who, it was a mix of mental health and maybe some substance, right? And it was initially a very controversial issue for the rest of the neighborhood, because people have preconceived notions and stigmas. And sometimes those are borne out in other cases, but they're not borne out, in a broad, right? Usually it's a one-off or whatever. But the reality is, for local governments, they're gonna respond to those constituents. They're gonna say, well, I can't have it. And that's the thing we have to deal with too. I know we've tried to make sure that communities, that as long as you're following the codes and you're zoned properly and everything, that you can put some of these homes in communities where you want them and not have them blocked. And that's something that I think we have to continue to push at my level and local.
That's what these guys do.
Yeah, no, it's hard. I mean, it really, I lived it on both sides. When I was mayor, I lived it. For me, I'll tell you this, I would look at the who, there's certain organizations and groups that have really good brand ID and they do a great job and they have the right staffing. That matters, right? And then there's others, not everybody, it's like anything else. Not everybody is created equal. In other words, you can have 3 different providers and 3 very different outcomes and brands and everything else. And so I think that was always a big deal for me, is the who is coming in, what is their track record? And if they were a solid provider, then I sort of took the chance on them, that they would do the same thing, 'cause it's their name on the home, so to speak. But I think that does matter, because at the end of the day, you want to make, most of these places come in and you wouldn't even know. I always tell people, you wouldn't even know. Once it's there, you'll never even hear a disturbance, you'll never hear one thing from it. And that's usually the case. The problem, of course, is when there's one somewhere in Western North that doesn't go that way. It's the new coverage, it's on TV, it's in Buffalo News, and everything in the future. I don't want that next to me. And so that's the stigma we have to work against.
Thank you. Okay, I don't know if you can answer this, but
I'll try.
I've been looking to buy property. I'm a homeowner. I'm at 2.5. I've had my house a long time. And so, recently was back in Atlanta, I've been looking for property. Every time I go to buy property, some corporations bought it. And then I'm hearing, I don't know if it's true, that they're not even paying taxes for 7 years. And what is it? I don't know if they're immigrants or whatever. Like I said, it could be a myth, but I'm hearing that people are buying property, different nationalities, and they're not having to pay taxes for like 7 years on their property.
So I guess if there's a specific situation like that, I'm unfamiliar with it, but it sounds to me, and I don't know, again, I don't know the specific. So I hear 2 things that separate are true, but I've never heard them married. So also,
Well, I know
first,
some of my African friends, I'll speak on what I know.
Sure.
I know they bought property and they were excluded from some taxes.
Yeah.
They were
Okay.
excluded. But here I am paying taxes on garbage. My
Yeah.
kids are grown, 30-something, I'm still paying school taxes.
yeah,
And they're buying this property and getting all these benefits when I'm putting my money into the city.
sure.
It's like the cell phone company. They treat the people better than new ones, better than the old customers.
You live in the city of Columbus. Okay. So I would say there are no doubt, there are programs. I think the city of Niagara Falls may have one specifically at a city level. To try to incentive, so as you may know, what happened over the years in the city of Niagara Falls is there was a bit of a hollowing out. There were properties that were left, no one was in it, right? And so I know the mayor has tried to reestablish home ownership not just transient, not just apartments, right? Because we know, while we want transient in some parts of cities, you need them. There's neighborhoods that you want homeowners like yourself, because traditionally, I don't wanna, I'd be willing to bet your home, you have a bet, your home, you're gonna upkeep it, you're gonna take care of it. I know when I was a kid living in an apartment in Buffalo, I didn't give a thought about whether the grass was cut or whatever it was, because it wasn't my grass, right? Or it wasn't my place, right? But when it's yours, you do it. So I know that the city has tried, I don't know, that may be, if it's an individual owns that bought a house that's not paying taxes, that has to be some, either an income-based or a city program. It may stem from HUD funding that they got, something, it has to do with income though, in that situation. I'm not saying it's fair or unfair to you, but that would be the program. I'm not intimately familiar with that because we didn't have that. I was mayor. Now with corporation. So sometimes there are, usually this is the case with housing, usually, but it can be. If a company buys it, they can get what they call a pilot agreement, okay, which is something we may be familiar with. Pilot agreements can be controversial because it's like anything else. If they're used properly, I think they can be a good thing. If they're not properly, it can become sort of a frustrating thing. So a pilot agreement is company XYZ wants to come to Niagara County, Niagara Falls, they go to the IDA and they get what's called a payment in lieu of taxes, pilot. And basically they pay a lump sum each year instead of the tax, as they pay a different formula. And usually it starts low. And then over the course of the pilot, it grows up into whatever the tax amount would be. So let's say I was building a company here, I ran a company down in the county, and I bought that property over there. And year one, my pilot, let's say the taxes, full tax value would be 20 grand. Let's just pick a number. My pilot year one would be 5 grand. Okay. With the idea being they're trying to attract companies and that kind of thing. With housing,
You can create a company right on.
oh yeah, yes, you can, but that doesn't necessarily mean you go get a pilot, because you have to go for I mean, there's at least a process to get. I don't know which one sort of worked. You mentioned also, I mean, it does dovetail a little into the housing, the magnitude here in New York. It's not as huge where we are now, but it does exist because of the state of New York. There's a lot of folks who come across into the state, obviously that are undocumented citizens, right? And the reality of anything else, there's a certain volume that the state can handle that doesn't really negatively impact the day-to-day life of all of us. But there's also a point where you get to a number where it does have an impact. And so I think some of these companies have bought places, and of course, they're gonna buy places in cities, maybe low-income areas, and they're being put up somewhere, they have to be, whether it's hotels, whether it's apartments. And then the question does have to become then, is that taking a place away from someone else who's a citizen, who's paying taxes, that needs that place? That's a question that we don't always have a great answer for, because the data is sometimes not provided, meaning from, so most of those folks come through, so you know, the city of New York. They come into the city, and what has happened is the city of New York has bused those folks, transferred them to other parts of the state, including to here, Erie County. And so it becomes, and then the federal government, so that becomes, it's a hard issue to quickly to fix here, but it is an issue that I think you raise, and it goes to housing. If we're already having a housing crunch, you gotta think, well, now you're adding to that housing crunch, and it's usually gonna be places like Niagara Falls, Buffalo, New York City. It's gonna be your more urban populations, there's generally speaking. I'm not saying that's historically what would happen. And so I think all those are items, but if you have, I will just, and this is true for any question. If there's a specific, specificity to one of the things you brought up about people not paying tax, I'd be happy if you wanted to follow up, if you were to provide me an address or a place, I could look into for you specifically why that is and try to get a more finite answer to you on that.
I mean, I would like that too.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, I would actually as well, as you're raising it, because there's a lot of issues that we just covered there. It could be any one of them.
Back to this community, And like I said, my kids are 30 something, I'm paying school taxes, and they're sending their money back to their country. Which is their right, and I'm not trying to discriminate or anything, but we're just up Niagara Falls, where people are coming in, and all these perks, and people that live here working hard, we don't get those same perks.
Listen, I would tell you, yeah, please,
Allow DSS,
okay,
don't have to recognize that they're Maricopos,
right.
and following women, telling them what to do,
Right.
and DSS complying totally.
Without asking any questions or.
Nothing. And I don't think that's.
Well, it's in a host of ways. One, it could be something very bad could be happening there. We
Right.
don't know. I mean, that's a reality. You know, I always say the human trafficking thing, it doesn't look like it does in the movies. The human trafficking thing in real life looks very, there are people who are being trafficked that don't even realize that they're being trafficked in the moment, right? It's only after the fact that you were being trafficked. Because it doesn't, they're not bound, they're not, I mean, sometimes that happens, but sometimes it doesn't. And I think the other part that you raised is. You don't have to feel that, I always tell people, look, there's a value to being citizens of the United States, right? Just like anything else, there is the value of being a citizen is you have access to things. That if you're not a citizen, you would not, if you have those things, there, you've got to obviously work to make sure people can become a citizen. But the reality is if you're not, you as a US citizen, an American citizen, pays taxes and funds all the different levels of government. You can't take you shouldn't have to take a back seat to anyone that is not in that role. That's all I would say to anybody. It doesn't mean I wish anything ill on anybody else. It just means that I'm elected. I work for you first and foremost. And that's where I think our focus has to be. And if you gotta choose, everything's fine. There's a finite amount of money, there's a finite amount of whatever. If I have to make a choice, then I gotta make sure you have access to it first. And then if you have access and then if there's leftover, that's a different conversation, right? So. Now, how long have you been in Atlanta?
Almost 2 years.
You've been weather with you? I've noticed it's been a lot warmer since you've been here. Yes,
Hi, my name is Maura Kelly.
I know.
Behavioral health liaison for Western New York and Vet Living,
Okay,
covered 5 counties. I'm sorry I'm late.
that's okay.
So you might have already answered this, but I doubt it, but, I'm very concerned and many people are very concerned about the rural high suicide rate
Yep.
among men with
Yep.
firearms. And the Office of Mental Health has asked me and a lot of other people like me what we should do, and if we had a magic wand, well, how would we solve that problem? So, can you help us?
Sure, well, so I always, magic wand thing interesting, because I would say, reality is we don't. Right, there is no such thing as a magic wand, so we have to think, okay, how do we address this? And I think, first of all, suicide rates, I represent my district, as I mentioned before you got here, Laura, so everyone heard this, but obviously we're in Niagara Falls, and I represent Niagara Falls, largest city. I have North Tonawanda and Lockport, those are the big, and then I have the village of Medina, those are probably my largest population centers. But most of my district is rural. And so when we talk about rural, and I was the chair of mental health committee for many years. So I'm very familiar, or at least very, the Senate, the New York State Senate Committee on Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities. And so in that role, I became very aware of some of the challenges in rural communities, which I touched on, lack of transportation to mental health services. Lack of mental health services, meaning not in those rural communities, so you gotta get to that. And that can be 40 minutes away, that can be, and as we all know, people don't talk about mental health. Right, we don't talk about, like, no one's at the football game and says, oh, when you were going through that depression, where did you go? Like, we don't have those conversations, right? Because we look at mental health very differently than our physical health. If you broke your arm here, and you went to the hospital to get fixed, nobody would think that's a weird, nobody would look askance upon you for that. They would say, oh, good, you should. But for some reason, we don't look at mental health the same way we look at physical health. So, yeah.
So, I guess my nephew is a doctor, he's a resident out west, and he loves family practice.
Sure.
So this idea came to me. Why, he loves rural.
Mhm.
and the doctors are jack of all trades.
Yep.
Why can't, in the idea of like rural and urban communities are so different,
Yeah.
isn't rural community a different entity? So why would people living in one type of community be brought to another
Sure.
type, like, shouldn't there be more emphasis on informing the rural docs and the rural caregivers to be jack of all trades, because
Well,
people in rural, there's.
What I would tell you is this is Jim. Doctors, they're not working in rural settings. They don't want to. Here's why. If you're the doctor in Medina, you're the doctor for Medina.
Right.
You're on call 24/7, right? That's just not, right now, when we were younger, well, some of you would know, but some of us over here, we all, we remember the local doctor. That, as we all know, is going away.
Right.
Every doctor now, and I know a couple of them that are my age, they came out of medical school, they want to work at a hospital. Why? They want shift. I don't know when they're working, they don't want the liability, they don't want the malpractice, they almost want like just a job, they want to leave when they're done at the hospital, they're out, they're not on call. And so I think
Well,
in rural
nephew,
community,
Dr. Brendan Hugh Bob Keller likes to work in the rural.
okay, and God bless him,
Right, but
he's
so
out west.
people in America choose where they want to live, so they're
100%.
choosing this type of community.
100%.
So that's my problem, or my dilemma.
Well, so what I would say is that, so,
Yeah.
doctors, it's gonna be hard to tell a doctor, you have to work here, right? That's really not. Now, the other problem is you have hospitals that are closing in rural areas. I have one hospital in Orleans County. The whole county has one hospital, and they have one hospital only because it's got federal designation called Article 32, I think it's a critical care facility. Because of that, they can't close. If it wasn't for that designation, that hospital would be gone. Just like DeGraff I mean, you got a great hospital here in Niagara Falls that's hanging on, it's an independent.
So what do
Most
we
of
do?
the
We got
hospitals,
guns, we got rural, we got men, we don't have mental health, do we have anything
Right.
out in the world?
so I think one of, we don't, I mean, but I think one of the answers, the hopes, this is not an answer. There's a lot of things we've unpacked there about why doctors, why we chase doctors away from private practice or from, what do you call it, like general care, general practitioners. Everybody wants to be a specialist. If you want to be that, I want to be a orthopedic surgeon, I want to be into pediatric, nobody wants to be a general practitioner anymore, because I'll tell you what. They don't believe, no, I'm not saying this, they don't believe there's any money in it, right? The money is in all the specialties. So what does it be like that? And you're 100% right. People that live, I always say to my friends in New York City and stuff, my colleagues across the aisle or across in government, I always say, people that live in Medina, don't feel bad. Like they're stuck there. There's a lot of people who live there, want to live there. People live in Newfane that want to live there. People who live out on the lake and in Wilson that want to live there. They should have access to basic services. Critical. Now, I think one of the things is telehealth. I do think telehealth has some opportunity for rural communities where a doctor can interface with a patient, over the computer or whatever, and at least see them, and be able to talk to them. And if there was a larger issue, or maybe you can avoid a larger issue, maybe you can say, you know what, it sounds like what you're talking, let me see, when you show it to me, this looks like a real problem. I'm gonna have you, why don't you get, call 911, get in here today, where you get this taken care of, versus waiting and maybe letting it fester. I think it's true for mental, because I do think, look, you're never gonna get the level of mental health services in Albion that you have in Rochester or Buffalo. It's just not gonna happen. But if you can have mental health remotely, you can have a doctor who's able to do hours over Zoom, for lack of a better term. I think at least you can talk to someone if they're suicidal, or that mental health professional then could take some action to try to maybe save those lives, because you're 100% right.
Thank you, but I just want to leave with this.
Yeah, please.
We're not gonna solve it, but. And the attorney came and gave her testimony from all the community about the mental health system.
Sure.
One woman talked about calling 911 or 988, 911. And it took 2 days for a mobile mental health treatment center to get there. Let's leave you with that.
Yeah, right.
And people that are rural, for some reason, they're not choosing to live, they're killing themselves.
So this, maybe.
I don't know that it's, that they're all killing themselves. I think there are, I think there's suicide that's higher there.
Yeah.
First of all, though, you gotta keep, there's less people. So your per capita is gonna be a little higher, let's say, in Buffalo.
Right.
But I also think you have higher ownership of firearms in rural communities, really speaking.
Yeah.
But I also think and I don't think that's inherently, I think the issue becomes, people in those communities don't talk about it. Again, I can't emphasize enough. And there's not an access to it around the corner. And so they don't seek out the help until sometimes it's too late. There is funding. I'll leave it with, there's funding. I'm happy to. Thing in the state budget called, Farm Net, which is specifically funding that is designated for farms, for farmers to deal with mental health. Because a lot of farmers, big and small, because farming is hard and it's a lot of work. And what we've seen is farmers, they have a bad season. Financially, they're concerned, they're wiped out, and there's high suicide rates amongst farmers specifically. And I know you wouldn't think that necessarily, but it is. So to her point, though, that's a very good point, a really good issue. You're welcome. What else?
So, I don't know, when
Rounds up.
when we sat down to it, stand up for recovery day.
Yes.
We had brought up the transportation.
Yeah. Yep.
Is anything until like?
So I know there's gonna be an effort this coming year, as I talk to some people in this space, to push for a pilot transportation program around transit, specifically around transit for people. So I'm sure one of these knows, I suspect, maybe I should. I have long had a love-hate relationship with the NFTA. I'm sure maybe some of you have the same feeling. I get it. I know, there are all kinds of challenges running a public transportation authority, anywhere. I mean, look at the MTA, the biggest one, and they have all kinds of problems. So it's not an easy thing. But for me, and I'll say this, I'll be a bit of a homer. As someone who represents Niagara County or Orleans County, I don't saw the NFTA when I managed them, maybe yourselves, the Buffalo Transportation.
Right.
Because you don't offer anything.
No.
And that is not helping my constituents. Whether they be a city, they have to get there for work, whether they be someone that needs, they can live independently. So long as they can get themselves transported to their services. But if you don't have the ability, the I suddenly becomes a lot harder, right? Living. So I think I go back and forth with them. I met with Stephanie Speaker, I'm sure some of you know, right? Yeah. And I love her. She's one of the biggest advocates for transportation issues. I think in Niagara County, rural county, there's a lot of transportation issues, even for people who are physically able, intellectually able, but they might have the means of a car or something like that. Niagara County, there's a lot of love to be desired for transportation. I think if we can bolster or come up with new models, the old model is you gotta live within 3/4 of a mile of an active bus route. I think for the FDA to provide transportation for people who might not use the bus, okay? For paratransit. The problem is they cut bus routes, less and less people live within 3/4 of my bus route, they're cutting all the bus routes. So I think we're to some kind of like either a pilot program, either that's funded by the state, the county, or something that like a model off of like a accessible, like a Lyft or Uber type of model, something they can go out to get people to where they need to go. Because the buses, I see it, you guys all see it. I mean, we've all seen the bus drive by and there's on the bus. Obviously, that's at some point, you're spending the money on gas, the driver, the bus. If no one's on the bus, that's a bad thing, right? That's not great. The problem is for the one person who, let's say you need it one time a week. One time a week isn't enough to make the MTA money.
Right.
But it's a critical thing for that person who lives in that home, so they can continue to live on their own. So we gotta find a way to sort of zero in and almost customize something for people.
Well, we had,
Need tons of funds for non-medical transportation, especially talking about recovery stuff. Because not everyone has 2 days notice to call, and the non-medical cabs are not taking people to self-help meetings to go over some step work, to meet with a sponsor, to meet with another therapeutic value of another person, understanding the struggles of addiction and recovery. They go to the coffee shop or just to, you know, look, I've had a lady, matter of fact, in Albion, right? Average appointment's around 9 miles for anyone from a rural community to get to an appointment that they need to. Huge barrier. We all know that, right? And I spoke about that at Stand Up for Recovery Day. And she said, if I don't get to my daughter's graduation at the University of Buffalo, and she's in recovery, so staying in recovery at this point, she said, if I don't get to her graduation, she's never gonna talk to me. I've missed things during my active addiction, that if I don't get there, I'm gonna use, we obviously played the tape through, I helped her with many resources, like, we don't have to use no matter what, but I understand, I have a daughter who just graduated, I have little ones, we get down the hole, and that's the thing about being up here, is that we don't look down the hole at them, we get down the hole with them, right? And I made some calls and came up with some resources, $75 to get an Uber from Albion, Sunset House, to University of Buffalo, but that guy got some friends that I can rely on, and I may not have went out of the way to make it happen. That's not here nor there right now. I knew how important this was to this individual, and she was so grateful for that for me. And that's at the drop of a hat. You know what I'm saying? So we don't have notice to always get them or to get them from that rural community or even inner city stuff. Doesn't matter where it's from. You know, it's non-medical transportation and Uber fund.
You just said it's interesting about the Uber price. I mentioned it like as I think we need to look at a model. It uses similar technology that they, you're not gonna be able to use Uber because the cost. So for an Uber to get to Medina and get, or Albion, get where.
Or the availability of it. even.
Or the availability, that's the other issue is.
They'll pick you up, but then they don't pick you back out.
Well, that's stuck somewhere, 100%. I mean, that's a real, again, it's one of those things, and look, I always say, there's, you know, living in the rural areas is awesome because you're kind of off the grid until you need to be on the grid, right? I mean, that's always the downside, right? And for certain things, it's okay, but for certain things like critical care for your daughter's graduation, or, I understand that because there's non-medical could be your.
It could be your kid's baseball.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And you're in recovery or anything.
Going to work is a big.
Or an interview or whatever,
I think-
school.
I think going to work is a big deal because I tend to think, this is my own view, maybe this is oversimplistic. I'll leave you guys with this. I tend to think that there's a lot of things that we focus on in the state, you know, when we're dating. There's a lot of things that we try to help out with that a job could help out. Like in other words, if you got a job, you know, if I wasn't working, then all of a sudden I'm working. Think about all the things. I feel better about myself. You know, I now have money. There's a lot of things that being an employer, having the opportunity to have an employee solves. And so I think the people who are going through recovery, helping them get to that point.
That one woman changed the whole course of
They
the
get
entire life.
100%.
That relationship could change and the job I had, she would never met her grandchildren if she didn't make it to that graduation.
Right.
That's hypothetical, but these are realities, right?
Yeah,
We're talking about addiction and how much it harms people in relationships. So that one moment, she might have missed her high school graduation and her kindergarten moving up day and just, I can talk about it all day.
No, I know, you could, and I could too, but I know we don't have all day, unfortunately, because you have people you got to hear from.
We'll be back for stand-up.
I know you.
And you always make time for us, so we appreciate it.
And if you're ever in Albany, anyone here, you are ever in Albany, I would be mad at you if you did not come and find me. Well, if I'm not there, and they will tell you. We have a big conference room, a nice office, it's
We
always,
got some good candy
they got
dishes.
some good candy.
Yeah.
It's always
Any place.
at your disposal. Anyone who's here, it's 3:15 in the Capitol, Senator Rob Ford. If you're, I don't care if you're from Niagara County or not, but if you're from Niagara County, that is your home. If you're ever in Albany, you want to park up there and get a Coke, get some candy, make a few phone calls, it's there. But if you're there when we're in session, I said, you please stop by. I will make time.
So have an office in North Carolina.
I have an office in Lockport, so my local office is in
Right
Lockport.
by lot 34.
Right, yeah, right by Lockport.
We know.
So you can come over and see me and then go get lunch. What's that? Well, and Molinarios, that's it. See, now there's someone who really.
We're there 5 days a week.
That's the best pizza. That's pizza in Lockport, I'm sure.
I see it.
Too much. Well, listen, I want to thank you guys, first of all, for a lot of you for what you actually do, not just for this, but for what you do every day, because I know you're out there fighting the fight every day, really helping people's lives. We try to, I mean that sincerely, I do think when we pass budgets, bills, the goal is to help. Always work out that way. Sometimes it doesn't help at all, sometimes it doesn't help enough. Sometimes it creates more problems, and that can happen too. But I, please let me know how we can continue to advocate and how stuff looks on the ground. Because that's 30,000 Albany foot view, something could look a certain way, and then you're all around living, living these things every day. It may not look that way. Or there are issues I don't know about. Don't think that, oh, Senator must know about this. You'd be surprised. There's 1,000 issues out there. I may not know about every one of them. I know that might come as a shock. It should. But if there's something that you think I can help out on, please let me know. Obviously, we'll continue to advocate the best we can on the housing, transportation, and the CDPA, the CDPAP program and all of that. That's a whole another cluster we get into. And it really has become a cluster, unfortunately. The bottom line is that program works. And we gotta make sure that the independent living centers are part of whatever solution is coming, because it works. You're helping people, it works. People like taking advantage of that, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes we do it all. I appreciate you guys having me today, and God bless you. We have a great week.
Well, next time I'm at MVP.
Okay. Well, if you're in the arrows, if you're across the street, come by and say hi. Feel free to bring a slice of pizza. Good luck tonight.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
He makes time to read more out. He ran, he was inside and he ran, remember he ran down there? Yeah. He ran. They had to drag him up out of there. He spent so much time. Let's say, like, come on, you gotta get the next one. He would have stayed all day. Yeah. Yeah, I was actually walking. Oh. Come on.
Brian Seaman is running for Niagara County District.
Thank you very much for having me. And, I said, okay, I heard someone talk in the other room and like, who's that in there? And I get to follow Senator. So I've been in other events before and you never want to follow Senator or he's gifted in getting in front of people and talking. Make points. So, but I'm Brian Seaman. I'm the district attorney here in Niagara County. I'm running for election this year. I guess I'll just kind of tell you, I guess my philosophy of what I do is just because, being a district attorney is not a political position, not a position where I'm coming out here with policies and these are the policies that I want to forward, and these are the things that I want to get accomplished. It's a position that where it's something that needs to be done. It's a job. However, because it's an elected position, it requires some amount of politics and being involved in that process. So I view the job as a district attorney. Maybe I'll just do it this way. I come into contact with people really in three different ways of the district attorney. Number one is a person has been charged with a crime. I come into contact with them because it's my job then to prosecute that crime through the court system. The second way I come into contact with people is when they've been a victim of a crime. And the third way is when somebody's a witness. Of course, there's other ways. But those are the three ways that you're going to come into contact with my office. You're a defendant, a victim, or a witness. I like to put my focus as a district attorney on number two. That's where I put my focus. A lot of policy talk with regard to the justice system, the focus shifted and put on the defendant. I like to shift the focus back to the defendant. Because what I'm doing when a case comes to me is really two things. Number one, there's a victim in the case. I don't get a case unless there's a victim. Sometimes the victim is or this society because it's a drunk driver, something like that. There was no specific that type of victim. I need to try and find a way, as best I can with the conflict system that I have, to try and come to a just result for that victim. Yes, I want it to be also a just result for the person who's been charged with a crime.
But not just the person that's been charged with the crime, because that too often is the focus. What would be just for that person? What would be just for the victim? And we deal with incredibly serious, someone who has been assaulted, who's been sexually assaulted, somebody who I'm not dealing with the victim, because that person's deceased, I'm dealing with the victim's family. What would be justice for that person? And that's what I try to get that just result for that person. And generally, that is the same just result for the defendant. Justice is the same in both scenarios. It's imperfect, but that's my focus. The second group of people that I feel like I'm looking for every day is the potential possible victims have yet been victimized. What do I mean by that? Unfortunately, when dealing with crimes and individuals who are charged with crimes, I wish I could say that most times a person gets charged with a crime and, you know, they really learn their lesson and they go on about life and that is the last time they see us. Fortunately, it's not usually the case. You shouldn't say it can be the case. And oftentimes, first time offenders, you do never see it. And I've had experience of having many people file petitions for my office asking to have their criminal record expunged. And I look at petitions that, oh, look, one criminal interaction, and it was 20 some years ago. So it does happen where someone has this run-in with the system, they're resolved, and then they never do it again. And that's what we want to have. Unfortunately, however, there's another set of individuals that we see time and time again, oftentimes the same type of crime over and over again. And I feel the responsibility on dealing with a person like that is to try to bring some type of a wall in that person and next possible. And that could be a repeat drug driver. It could be somebody who's prolifically, fortunately, it can also be violent crimes. We see repeat offenders and domestic violence very often. My job is to try to stop the next person. And that's really how I in my position. That's how I do my job. I think that is what my job is. And that's what I try to do every day for the residents of Niagara County. And what I always say is that, you know, the people who are going to become victims, could potentially become victims, oftentimes they are the weaker members of our system. Right? They're the people who can be victimized. Well, people who are strong in all different ways. I'm not talking just physically, mentally, whatever it is. A strong person could victimize a weaker person if they so choose to do so. And my job is to try and prevent it from happening, and therefore work for the members of our society. That's what I do as the district attorney. I'm happy to, I don't think what type of specific types of areas or just things that we do, but that's what I do. That's what every day. I have an office of 25 assistant district attorneys who work in 14 different town courts, 3 different city courts, and then of course county court, which is where we.
The people that commit to the crimes repeatedly over and over. When they get to you, they don't want to tell you that they were arrested a child, their mother's on drugs, their parents are rough life, and that's why they're committed to health, they're undiagnosed. So when they get to you, instead of throwing them in jail, is that the effect?
Sure. So yes, and every case is different. Every case is unique. Every person is unique. And the reality is that in most cases, a person committing crimes, you know, they come from a background such that maybe they didn't have every opportunity. It's not always the case. Sometimes we call it others. And that's to take into consideration. We have all types of things in Niagara County and other counties too, but we also have things like reports, things like that. It's very common for a person to be referred into a treatment court if they have a drug addiction problem. We have a mental health court in Niagara County that people are referred to in certain types of scenarios. If a person doesn't fit one of those categories, it's very often the case that a sentence would involve some kind of probation, mandated counseling, all of those things. However, at the end of the day, sometimes the crimes that are committed are of a seriousness where jail is the appropriate thing, both for the victim, for justice for the victim, and also to protect the other members of society. Yeah, we have all types of different ways to approach crimes, and I like to take each case on its own, each defendant on their own, each victim on their own, and try to figure out what is the just result for this case.
So even when they're incarcerated, I can get into the mental health facility. I mean, they committed a crime, they're in jail now. Are they just sitting in there getting 3 meals a day that our taxes are paying? Are they getting the help so when they get out, they can't be a protected group?
So, you know, that is a great question, and I'd say the answer is yes, but maybe not to the degree that we would like, right? Yes, there's programming in Niagara County Jail. There's programming in the state correctional system. There are things that are being offered, but is it everything that we would? I guess the perfect setup probably not. Okay.
If you leave right at the bus stop with a bag and a $15 check and nowhere to go, so $15 okay, high, now you got another homeless person on the street. And I feel like when they get tired, right now it's cold outside, and why not go to jail and get 3 meals a day? You know what I'm saying? So that's just my opinion. It's somewhere to go.
I remember when I was an assistant DA many years ago. I had Niagara was one of my courts. There's a lot of retail theft in town. You got that strip there, and every year around the time when it started to get cold, a certain person would show up in court with on a larceny or just a criminal mischief, and he just breaks a window, waits for the police to come. That's exactly what he's doing. That's not what jail's for. Right. That's not what jail's for. But sure, that can be utilized that way.
So, so I just recently took a training and, I became certified as a peer criminal justice system. And the person that did the training told me about a process that's going to become available in November of this year. So I'm a person who's sustained long-term recovery and I have a record. And I want to get my record expunged. And I heard you say, so I heard that this law is going into effect in November, and as long as you haven't committed a specific misdemeanor in so many years or a felony, then you can apply for this program. You know what
I do. You're talking about the clean slate legislation.
Yes.
So the way that it's set up is right now there's already things in the law that allow you to make an application after 10 years. Clean slate law is going to be automatic. You're not going to have to make an application. And what happens is the way it's written is there's certain types of offenses that are excluded. Sex crimes are excluded, and basically murders and sex crimes.
So it's trying to do criminal possession of a controlled substance. I'm good to go, right?
So that's going to be a covered crime. That's a misdemeanor. So after 3 years, it should be automatically. That's how the law was written.
So you say automatically because you know the system sometimes it should be done, but what's the system place that's saying it's gonna be removed?
Or how do they know that it has
Right.
passed? Will they get notified, people?
Right.
How does that work for them?
So I know that all these questions that you just asked are things that people at the Department of DOJ, Department of Justice, they're working on that. How exactly they're doing it, I don't know. It's with their computer system. Most of these records are all electronic. So, but I will also say that the sealing of those records, there's a lot of exemptions in that sealing. So, for example, if you were to make application to work in a school, they're going to be able to see that. If you're going to make an application to be like a police officer, you're going to be able to see that. If you get in trouble again, get arrested again, the police are going to be able to see that. You know, so it's although the records are sealed, they're not sealed with everybody. size.
Well, like, for example, like, I'm in the process of fostering a child, and, you know, I had to go above and beyond to, you know, get terms of organization, different things because of my past. And then somebody said to me, they're like, oh, well, there's this thing that, you know, and I, you know, have gone through other things, even schools now, because of my past, you know, I need clearance and stuff. But my thought process was, you know, is that really still gonna be there? Because it was such a misdemeanor crime, and it's not like I was up to charge it.
Yeah, so my guess is that, going forward, to foster a child, there's probably still see that.
Yeah.
To go,
I told them.
Yeah,
so it was
exactly.
like-
to work in the schools, they're still gonna see that there, but, you know, someone just a private person, like a job application, that person would be still running for the person.
Even if it's a state road.
I don't know. I mean, it's gonna depend on the list. There's a big list, and there's a big list of exclusions. So it depends.
Someone ran for mayor. Because of everything.
So that's I'm gonna contact the Department of Justice, if I'm interested, I got a record, I want my expunged. And it's been over 20-something years, it was.
It's been 20-some years. There's a process in place where you can put an application right now. Or will automatically be sealed through this clean site legislation as it rolls out.
Okay.
Next budget.
I never knew about that.
I should have used the word seal. Seal is the correct word now.
Okay.
Seal is the correct word. Because you're right, there is a distinction right there. Seal's the right.
Locked into.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Do you feel you have support with everyone from Niagara County, like, it seems like everyone, to me personally, it seems like, everyone wants to be in control or have the last word or don't see things the same way as per the law. Do you feel like?
Do I have, support of everyone? No, I don't. I don't know anyone who has the support of everybody in every aspect. I think I have a lot of support because I think people do want the laws enforced.
Right.
People don't want there to be lawlessness. People want their property to be protected. People want their persons, their children, their mothers and fathers, they want them to be protected by the law. And that's what I stand for, is doing that. I don't stand for, nothing's ever any big deal. All we really need to do is just, you know, tell someone how they're wrong, they'll be right.
Right.
I don't believe that to be true. So to the extent that there's any movement, political movements that opposite what I just said, I don't know that I have people's favor, but I believe I'm doing what's right. And I think that the majority of people agree with my position that we have to enforce laws if we have a free society.
Is anybody running against you?
Not this year.
Nope.
This
Mom.
one.
Hey, all you need, I need you to say, instead you want to keep somebody in prison. If you need a prison, you need to go to a lot.
Well, I think it's an important job and I'm dedicated to it. I have dedicated staff. So we think it's important and we're fighting through a lot of headwinds right now, but we feel like it's what needs to be done for the community and for people.
Yes, Ms. Aldrich, WDO Press. I just had a question, in regard to just some statistical things, like how frequently do you see people, with disabilities in that community come in as victims or criminals? Like how frequent is that?
Yeah, so I would say that it's a regular occurrence. It's a very regular occurrence for the disability community to, and I'd say most often I see that in their role as that is what I see. It's just part of what I was saying before. A person who is vulnerable is a possible victim for somebody who would exploit them. So I see that a lot. As far as, somebody in the disability community as a defendant, I do see that, and it also, it just depends on how broadly we're gonna stretch out our definitions, right? There's, as one of the questions alluded to earlier, there's a lot of people who have mental health issues that also find themselves on the both sides of the criminal justice system. So we see that a lot too, yeah, unfortunately.
Are there any solutions you want to provide for that?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, gosh, what a multifaceted issue, right? What a multifaceted issue that mental health and crime and violence. Yeah, if I were running the world, I'd have some things that I would suggest, but my position as district attorney, I really feel that I have to concentrate on the cases that are before me one at a time. I think it would be wrong for me to have some grand position and try and fit my cases into it. I look at the case, I gotta look at the person who was the victim in that case, the person who's the defendant in the case, or that case. So I guess I would try to avoid some grand, like, I'm gonna use the criminal justice system to fix this problem or that problem. I gotta work on the case.
Thank you.
Sure.
How did you respond? What did you do before that?
Okay.
Guys, well, LinkedIn, you want to see it? No.
So before I ran for district attorneys, let's give you the quick rundown. So I went to school in Chicago. After I became a lawyer, I spent 2 years as a law clerk for a magistrate judge. That was a great experience. After that, became an assistant DA. I moved back here to Niagara County. Matt Murphy was the long-time DA. He hired me as a young assistant DA. And then I did that for a number of years.
Six.
It's
coincidence. 6 years, 6
There you
years.
go.
Yeah, I got you. I sent your friend request.
Then I left the DA's office at that time. I really didn't want to leave. I left because I had a growing family and I didn't have a growing salary at that time. I had a growing family. So I left the office. I started a law firm with my dad, who's also a lawyer, and another lawyer. We started a law firm. I did that about 7 years, a little more. Maybe 7 years.
For like 4 years.
And always in the back of my mind, I want to, if the opportunity arises to run for DA.
So when Carolyn became judge?
So when Caroline announced and decided that she was going to run for judge, at the moment, ran for the position, and I was lucky to win the first election.
How do you feel that bail reform has affected substance use districts, people seeking help? And I am a person who's a pain walk from recovery. I came into recovery in 2016 through the way of the justice system and got the intervention. And I had time and distance for the first time away from the substance I could never get on my own. And however, I didn't get offered any treatment services while being locked up in Niagara County Jail. I was treated less than human in the special housings unit. I had a skin graft on my arm from not being able to stop using drugs, and half my skin graft fell off in the special housings unit. And the COs didn't honor it, and they talked to me less than human, didn't pay attention to it. We could have sued the freaking county jail for, I don't know, but like, it wasn't important to me. Just finding a new way to live was. And so being an advocate has been a passion of mine, to be the voice for people that don't have it, don't know about their rights, and just to try to breathe life back into people. So, how do you feel that, I guess it's like a multi question, go figure. How do you feel that the bail reform is affected, and how do you think that peer support specialists have helped make your job easier, make this society more livable to those that have struggled with substance use and or mental health?
We start with the first question. It's one I think I'm probably better able to address. How has bail reform affected substance abuse people who are addicted to substance? I don't think it's a positive effect. The idea is, we don't want to lock people up, but as you just alluded to, sometimes that could be what saves a person's life. And I remember talking to a woman, and she was crying because she had a person who wanted to get to jail for just a short period of time to get a back-to-back transfer with the substance.
I could probably tell you the name of that.
I want to say that person's, but She wasn't able to, she was not able to under the law. She was, the defendant was begging her, please do it. She overtold us that night. It's tragic. It's a tragic, and that's not a one-time thing. That is happening. It's happening. all over.
It's happening continuously.
Yeah,
We're seeing.
So we work in the court and like, I love this, great, she's amazing.
Yes.
Peter, rest of them, all, the whole. Yeah.
They actually really care about recovery. It's not about, but if somebody doesn't need to go to jail, and it's the judges that we work underneath, they're amazing too, but it's happening time and time again where they can't hold them and they want to go back to them. And it's very disheartening. Like, I had to lay on the floor and be able to detox. Like, that doesn't happen anymore because it's released and half the people are committing the same crime they just got arrested for.
I mean, it's
And then it affects the victims too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But they-
what I
the
would say
statement.
honestly is your voice is way stronger than mine on that issue. Because the state legislature, they don't want to hear what law enforcement officials have to say about
We
them,
rarely in Albany.
period. They might listen to what people who have recovered from addictions have to say, maybe. They will not listen to what I have to say. They don't want to hear my voice right now and hold me on criminal justice issues. I want to hear people who have been in that situation, who think that this law is not helping the people
Rob's
that.
been great, like he takes time every time we go up there,
Rob is great.
We have
and
a lot of people that.
Rob is great, and he's a very loud voice in Albany. Unfortunately, he's in a minority right now, and it's hard,
It's sad because last time, this year, but the past year, we were in Albany for Center for Recovery Day to be told that, a Republican bill has hit the floor in 40-something years. And it's not, this is a people problem. This is a bipartisan, this is a human problem. This isn't a red or a blue or independent. We're talking about my kids may need resources one day and everybody else's kids and grandkids. And that stuff needs to stop. It's not this side of the aisle or that side of the aisle. We're talking about our kids. And we go to schools, speak to students. We all care about the community, the next generation as they come, so. Yeah, so we continue to be advocates, so we're not silent, that for sure.
Yeah, well,
I appreciate it.
it's good, keep saying it. I mean, the idea that a judge has no discretion or authority to take somebody off the street for a little bit.
Right.
It's just not a good thing. It's not just people who are suffering from addictions. A lot of times that 10 hours, 12 hours away from a domestic violence situation, it really cool it down. There's reasons why people just need to be, sometimes when they've done something that requires them to be removed, that it's a good tool, not just for law enforcement, but for the community. And it's just been taken from the judges. It's unfortunate.
Hi, my name is Maura Kelly, need help, design for West New York County. What about, in between, confinement and community services? Like, what about, like, is there some, in between, being locked up and spending in your office, help people instead of punishing through whatever, like, isn't there some kind of increased diversity of services are getting provided for people that are sick and not well, and they don't insure bad things, but their behavior, the consequences of their behavior, like being that needing outpatient care versus being locked up or confined in an animal.
Yeah, there are, and they fall, usually the options that we have, let's say a person has been convicted of a crime. And ultimately, I can advocate for one thing, it's gonna be the judge. The judge makes that final decision. And the options are incarceration. But then what you're referring to, it usually falls under the auspices of probation sentence. And that can have all sorts of conditions attached to it, including participation in a drug court, a mental health court, veterans court. We have a lot of different specialty courts that are active in Niagara County. And it's usually a probation sentence that has one of those things attached to it, but there are other additional things that, depending on the specifics of the circumstances. And that is kind of the middle ground. We don't have like halfway houses or anything like that anymore, but we do have that is an option.
clean outside in front of all the houses. We have, we'll have somewhere for them to go. So, yeah.
Any other questions?
Institutions, nothing, you know.
Too many abandoned buildings around here for nothing to be in place.
For crime, you know, yeah, but.
Yeah, I see a lot of, I talk friends, made it say,
I just don't even, well, they make it go up, they have to be torn down, or you, people are paying taxes on those houses. The house that's all boarded up, the house that my aunt was from, it's still there. We don't put a memorial up if the guy that owns it pays tax. They're not paying tax, but you can't even have a memorial. Yeah, so I'm like, not real good place for all these homeless people. Like, who bought that place? We did. Yeah. I think somebody bought it. That I saw something like that. Other questions?
Thank you.
Oh, okay, yes, you just, said you were gonna be here, but I didn't.
That I wanted to drive, but if you just let me drive the control.
No.
Okay.
And then I can turn the.
I have no control sometimes over them.
I'm into this.
Yeah.
All right.
Candidate is here. He has a little Sunny.
There you go. Stand or sit or how we want this. We'll do that then. All right. Mary, how are you?
She is.
Make sure my phone's on vibrate, so.
Yeah.
Welcome, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has singing high praises here, so.
Oh, boy. Very good. Well, yeah, a lot of expectations a little bit. Thanks for having me. I told them the last day, so I don't know if they say the best for last, but we'll see. I just want to start with, when I took over, it was, late 2019, early 2020. And at the time I took over, it led, that was the year that I was running for my first election. It led into, COVID, police reform, police protests. So there was a lot going on, the first year. So right away, I knew that this was not going to be a typical year, of what we were doing in law enforcement. And really, that was a hard time for a lot of people, for everybody, with COVID. If you're in law enforcement, police reform and police protests were really kind of a difficult time. And there was a lot of justification in that, in why we had to do some reform and some things we were doing. So with that being said, one of the first things I did was I sat down with all the chiefs and said, we're in a different time, and we need to be doing things differently than we've been doing them. I sat down with my team at the sheriff's office and said, we need to change what we've been doing. We all know we can enforce law. We arrest the bad guys and girls, we write traffic tickets, we know how to enforce the law. But we need to be more involved in the community, and that's really been my pitch since I took over is the community needs to know their law enforcement, and I think when you know us and you see us out in the community and we're involved, it's more. Don't call us to say, oh, you usually call us in your worst moments. So it's very beneficial for you to know who we are, who you call us. I know I get out in the community a lot. I've met most of the people in this room. I think that's really, really important. And it really kicked in February, March when COVID hit. What does that community involvement look like? That meant delivering meals on wheels in patrol cars. That meant picking up prescriptions. That meant deputy sheriffs being recorded reading books to kids because they were in school. So what do? How do we reach out to kids? That meant birthday parades, not fun ones. The parades. We're parades for everything.
So there was a lot of things going on that we had to change, and that meant community, and that's really been my cornerstone since I took over is, what do we do to serve the community? We're a customer service agency. And that includes, obviously, people with disabilities. I would know with learning disability, the thing that always crosses my mind is we're making decisions on how we can serve. What would happen to her if I wasn't around? Who's gonna take care of her? Who do I want responding to her call for help? I want well-trained deputy sheriffs, well-trained police officers that understand the needs of people with disabilities. So that all, when we're talking about community in COVID and how hard that hit people, we have to look at people with disabilities that I think are at more of a disadvantage during those times, and how do we help? And what do we come up with, program wise that we can do? So, a couple things we've done. I want to talk about the stickers that we came up with. We've put these out for vehicles, home, and it just says occupant may have disabilities, respond with care. My wife has one of these on her car. Did you have a question?
Kind of.
Yep.
That's a great idea. What about people targeting?
I know.
Okay, I'm
That's
sorry,
concern.
like.
Yeah, so that concern came up. And
Wait, what did that whole thing say? I'm sorry.
it says occupant may have disabilities, respond with care. So really what this was a way to alert first responders that somebody in the house or somebody in that vehicle may have disabilities. There's been bad outcomes in other places in law enforcement response. Quite frankly, they didn't know how to deal, they weren't anticipating. There can be a lot of behaviors with people with disabilities. So really, yes, can there be a downside that somebody may say, well, there's somebody with disabilities in the house, I'm gonna target? Yes, but I think the benefit to it is we know going there as law enforcement that somebody has disability. I have one, if I was really concerned, I wouldn't have one on the front of my house. I wouldn't have one in my wife's car that she got. One today. No, I stack of them, we have the whole stack. So what comes with that is you go on our website, the NiagaraSheriff.com website. You can go on and ask for one of those stickers, but you're also putting a hazard into our dispatch system. So if a 911 call comes out, they will know that at 123 ABC Street, there's somebody there, and this is what would be a concern. Somebody is there with autism, we're not sure about. Whatever the case may be, we get a fire alarm there, so you kind of know what to anticipate. Is it somebody that can't get houses? Is it some, for whatever reason, physical mobility reasons, are they hearing impaired? Do we have somebody that's visually impaired in the house? So that gives us a lot of insight in what's going on in the house before we even go. So I think, to your point, yeah, there's always that worry that somebody's gonna target somebody. There's always a negative to things, but I looked at it as overall, if we can get these houses into our computer system, and God forbid there's a bad thing going on there, we can respond and know what we have going on there. Then potentially, if you're banging on the door, somebody's hearing it, they're not gonna hear you. So, all those things, again, it's the Niagara Sheriff website. You go on and you can request a decal, and then they'll ask you for your information to put in the dispatch center as a hand.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
So can they have their vehicles put in the system without having a sticker on it as well? If they don't want to have that on for whatever signal purposes or whatever, they don't want to be a target or a mark or whatever.
Not that it says you have to put the decal on, you can just have your information entered into the dispatch. You can request a sticker, give them all the information, everything goes to the dispatch center, and then you don't have to put the sticker on. We'll still get that hazard, so if we get that call, we'll still have that hazard pop up.
So basically, it flags the system.
It flags the system either way.
Hey.
Yeah, this is more of a, if for some reason you didn't complete the paperwork, you put the sticker on your house, now we know what we're contending. It's important to me. I look at my daughter and I know exactly how she'll interact with people that she doesn't know. She could be almost look as if she's uncooperative. Or she gets real shy and doesn't talk and puts her head down and won't interact. If you don't know, who knows? Who knows what that outcome is gonna look like. The other thing that we've done is in the police academy, everybody gets 6 hours of disability awareness training, mandatory, everybody goes through it. And I think it's credit. We worked with Dave Whalen, Dave Whalen from the university. At the initial curriculum, it got approved by the State Department of Criminal Justice Services, everybody gets that. Disability awareness training. I think unless you have somebody in your family that has some level of disability, whether it's a physical disability, learning disabilities, whatever it is, I think it's hard to understand it. So I think it's really important that, we have 20, 21, 22, 23-year-old recruits going through the academy that really don't have a lot of life experience. Right, so it's important that they get this kind of training, so they understand some of the people that they're gonna be dealing with. So I think, that's something we definitely had to make sure that we are doing, give them the training tools that they needed. I mentioned Dave Whalen, I've worked with him on different things. I don't know if you saw the video that we did, and it was based on a band, I believe in Maryland, where law enforcement responded to a movie theater. Right, and it was to see that, was very upsetting to me. He asked if I would participate in the video and talk about my daughter and disabilities in a video. And I said, absolutely, if we can prevent that from happening again, I'll be happy to do that. So again, it's a community, and I don't want people, when they see our red and white patrol cars, to think, oh, not Chicago. I want you to think, yeah, we're here to help. And again, it's important to me that we get out and communicate what we're doing and why we're doing it. So, one thing we have is a locator watch program. So again, children, it can be for children with autism, it can be for old adults that have dementia. Again, it's just a locator bracelet that goes on, you can track it via computer program, GPS. And it just, I worry about, somebody with dementia or autism getting out in the middle of winter. And who knows when they got out of the house, they usually have a head start, nights, calling dogs. Things on social media, hoping somebody sees it, putting it out on the media, getting the helicopter or drone up, and that's precious time. So if, we've been pushing this program, we only have a handful of these locator bracelets out in the community, but it saves critical time. You can log into the computer, see where they went, see where they are, and it's a matter of picking them up, whether it's us going and doing it or the family. So again, these are all just community service things that we see as we're out in the community. We're in needs. One second, I don't want to lose my train of thought.
You're good. That was interesting.
You hear things like, why do you carry Narcan in your cars? Well, we can save lives, right? We've had Narcan for years in our cars. I was getting my hair cut one day, and the lady cut my hair said, well, why don't you carry EpiPens in your car? And I said, well, I really thought about it. We get Narcan for free. EpiPens are expensive. She said, well, they save lives. And, I started looking at our data, and we go to a lot of allergic action calls, and we kind of just go, man, right? So again, how do we better serve the community with the legislature? And they said, we'll give you the money to get up. That first year, I think we went to 13, which doesn't seem like a huge number, but 13 calls for allergic reactions. Were in a couple of them, they probably weren't going to make it. And they got their EpiPen. Some people just simply can't afford their EpiPen. And that's the problem. They're so expensive. We've been dispatched to an immediate care for EpiPen, which is kind of concerning, but that's a whole other story. So all these things that are pieced together are, as I hear things from people, I try to be reactive and responsive to say, what can we do to serve the community better? And I'm sorry, you.
It was just about the regulator, how you said that's a program, like how have a 10-year-old granddaughter with Down syndrome who's gotten out before.
Sure.
So, what's the process? Thank you.
You segued beautifully into my community service project. I appreciate that.
You're on the payroll now.
The last thing I want people to do, we talked ahead of time. She said, "Oh." So I hate when people call and they get shuffled around. And the worst thing in the world is, I want to learn about your bracelet program, and you call this pension, and they transfer you to somebody, and you don't get a response there. Then maybe you try to call somewhere else and you don't get answers. So what this is everything you need to know at your fingertips. It talks about our programs, the yellow dot, the GPS, the bracelet program, car seat installs, victim services unit. And on the back here, there's contact. So if you want to learn about the Silver Alert Western Europe, which is the bracelet program, you contact these individuals that I have, my lieutenants working in community services, and they'll tell you about the process. So basically what it is we buy the bracelet, there's a fee per month to have service to it, but we pay for the bracelet, and then you use that as long as you.
But it's Medicaid. Covered, right?
How far do they track, do you know, like how many miles? Or is?
Well, it's all GPS based.
Anywhere.
You know.
It's anywhere.
Yeah. Yep. So,
Cell phone or something.
well, I don't refer to this dog now.
They call it a dog tower.
Yes.
Big one. I'm gonna be the godmother. Okay, mental health. Disability. How you doing there?
Everybody has been through advanced training in mental health, escalation. It is still a challenge, and here's where I think we get down. So we go, and I know there's people that think we know that we escalate the situation. We do everything, the new training that's out, that's been around for several years, is the escalation, right? It's not to go in and we're in control. I went to the police academy in the early 90s, so I'm getting older. And the training back then was, when you go into a situation, you're in control of that situation, you take control of that situation. We're the age, so don't laugh, man. So, new training, the de-escalation training is to go in and try to diffuse the situation. Where we get frustrated is, we have no real system to plug into, once we get that situation resolved. So we get somebody that we say, okay, we're gonna take you to Niagara Falls Memorial, or if you're a juvenile, we're gonna take you to ECMC. I really just feel, and I hope I'm not gonna offend anybody when I say this, I feel like we're failing people at that level because we take people and then see that same individual over and over and over because there's no long-term care for mental health. And I can tell you, the individual we arrested him the other day, he was walking towards the BOCES school with a non-functioning long gun. That is an individual that concerns me. We have with all the 9-10, it's a threat assessment team. I've asked them in an emergency meeting and bring all the disciplines together to say, what are we gonna do with this 21-year-old who openly said, maybe a mental health breakdown, I'm going to the school with this gun to chase kids around and cause havoc. The only thing we can do, because of New York state laws, like we issued a parent's ticket for the attempted menacing, we couldn't hold them. That's thanks to bail reform, and I'm not gonna get on that soapbox. And then the other piece was the mental health to do a 945 and take them to Memorial.
So I'm a behavioral health lead, West New York, the third, Chief of County's Day with sheriffs, and it's very apparent that our system is not taking care of people with severely mentally ill issues, and the brunt, the outlash goes to the police. And I would like to encourage you to talk to, your people, the governor, the Office of Mental Health, because there aren't community supports, and it ends up on your door and violent, and part of the threat advisory of Erie County. It's not, you guys end up with it, but and you guys are being defensive because you're in terrible situations, but the powers to be need to hear this from you, they hear it from us, the psych patients, but they need to, you guys are just like putting the gap in the hole, plugging the hole, but the hole is still there, and people, the government, optimal health need to hear from you guys, from everyone, including us, that you have this.
You're there to be a temporary solution, I think, right? With our crisis intervention training, right? Right, we're the temporary, I can tell you that I've been trying to get a meeting for months, with ECMC and Memorial in the same room, so that I can talk about our issues. Do you think anybody wants to come and talk to me?
I can make that happen.
I would love for you to make that happen, and here's what I wanna talk to them about. Why would we take juveniles to ECMC, that they say to us, why are you bringing them here? Take them to Niagara Falls Memorial. Well, Niagara Falls Memorial can't address juveniles. So we bring them there, and then to punish us, they make us wait in long line for bringing them there.
So I.
And then when we come here.
Dr. Cummings, and, I can
Yeah.
write this thing to give them, you guys all know.
I would love to, it is, I don't think they wanna hear what we have to say,
I know, they don't wanna hear anything.
because we bring them to memorial and they cycle right back out the door, and that's my fear that if somebody truly needs help, we're fixed at that level.
Parents, they listen to parents.
I may be able to drum up a few parents. Sure, yeah, I think it's, I agree with you, it's a problem, and we've been dealing with it for years, trying to figure out how to, you know. Over 60% of my jail population has mental health issues. And we have mental health care in the jail, but is the jail setting the best place for them?
Well, they used to be in the state psychiatric center.
Right.
Thousands of us, so now they're in the community and then they end up in jail. Different.
Well, I think the goal was to push the community-based care that isn't here. Right. And that's, I agree with you, it's a huge problem, and I'd be
Okay.
really willing to help to figure that out.
That's awesome.
One other thing, I guess I'll just finish up with here is, text the 911. So we went to text the 911. I lose track of my years, but a little over a year ago. And really the advantage, so initially I thought, oh, it's gonna be great, text the 911 if you're in a house, somebody's in your house and you're hiding somewhere and you can't talk. And I got thinking, there's probably other advantages to this, right? That maybe somebody that is able to speak, and I'll use text the 911. So, I think it's definitely an advantage. We're seeing it being used. We're getting text 911 calls now. So I just think, again, it's another resource for people that maybe can't normally use a phone. We do have the TTY, obviously, in our dispatch center, but this is another option for people that want to use text. So, really, over the last almost 5 years, like we have to push us forward for community-based initiatives. We're very, very involved in the community almost on a daily basis. And, you know, these little things to me, our truck or treat we just held out at SUNY Niagara, we had almost 1,000 kids there. So, you know, and it's all first responder based. And it's, the whole goal is just to get to know us on a whole level. And it's funny, the community, we're street clothes and come up and you go, I didn't recognize you without your big hat on. So, you know, I think being out is important. It's really important. As the leader of the office, it's really important. I know I have desk work I have to do and everything else. It's important I'm out there too, meeting and talking with people. That's really it. I know this is a campaign thing. I do not have an opponent this year, thankfully. So I get to continue doing the work at the office that I like to do and need to do.
Gonna ask, where can I get a sign? Because I saw Joe get a sign on the front lawn.
You know what, we weren't even putting signs out this year, because I just, you know what, I hate to ask people to come up with signs up and then I don't have a.
Just say sheriff on the back.
We can change.
What about jail resource fair?
Oh, yeah.
That was a great asset when so for those that don't know, we had a jail resource fair that would, I believe it was monthly. For the longest, we were bringing resources into the county jail and people would come out from the pods and whatnot, and get a plethora of different resources, different things, different agencies, clinical and whatnot would be there. Sorry, to talk real quick. And yeah, it's since COVID, obviously that stopped.
Is that when it stopped COVID?
It did, yeah. And Deanna used to be on that spearheaded everything, and Kim Kanji, and we, from our agency, will be up there, and it's just a great thing. We'd love to see about getting that back off the ground. So they would come down the pods. Yeah, and they would come down to sign up. They bring the men down first, and then they would bring the women down after, and whatever the allotted time was. It was decided by.
I will look into that, the jail resource. We have done things with workforce development. We've had people come in, we work with individuals being transitioned out to see if we can help them get into some level of employment. We're in discussions with Peace Prince right now, working through the funding to have them help with that transition as well, and actually track to see what's happening with people when they get out. So we're working with Peace Prince right now.
Yeah, even if it's something as simple as bringing like our team, especially like bringing updated schedules for self-help meetings, different pathways, things like that, so they know, because things move, things change, facilities close, and they don't go to that first meeting or whatever it be, who knows what if they try to go to another one. Yeah, we'd love to help.
You know that I'm big on programs.
Sure.
We offer college classes in the correctional facility, so not paid for by the taxpayer. They're paid for, if anybody's familiar, it's called an inmate profit account. And, one of our incarcerated population buys stuff that they don't provide, candy bars, chips, you know, whatever. There's a percentage that goes back into what's called inmate profit account through that company that does it. The only thing I can use that money on is programs. So pay for college classes. I think we have 5 different offerings now. And I've had people say, I got my GED while I was in here, I went to substance abuse, and now I'm on my 2nd or 3rd college class and maybe I'll train one of those veteran service dogs. And that's a success. And it's really a success if I don't see it back. So, those are the things, but talk about the job.
Thank you.
Or the jail resource. We're a good job.
How was your, so much money about service program?
The core program, we're really good for bringing that up, because we always posted it out at the sheriff's office, which we've been out there, we're in the middle of nowhere. So, we would draw people in from the rural areas. We do it at the Packard, we do 2 sessions now we join with Niagara Falls Police, and we do it at the Packard Court Community Center. And we're seeing some really good results with that. People interested in law enforcement, just coming and learn about the different jobs we have. And, I think it's been a success over here. We're gonna continue doing that. Just like the building bridges we do in the summertime. We come over and do that. We're gonna continue that, started from COVID. We're continuing the building bridges program, so. Yeah. Which one? 16 to 20, but we're, depending, we can lower the age.
I try to get, consumer from lot. Carolyn, with us or everything. I hope we do.
Yeah.
Also, I have an 18-year-old, which, you know, they're stuck in the middle. He's been in the National Guard for 2 years.
Mhm.
He can't be a police officer. He can't be a sheriff. He can't be a trooper. He can't do anything until he's 21.
Oh, no, you can take our exam when you're 19.
Okay.
And actually the jail, if correction officers, you can send up a experience application when you're.
Oh, okay.
So I recommend you go on, or have him, go on the Niagara County Civil Service website, you can sign up to get notifications. So whatever job title you like, whether it's corrections, deputy sheriff, whatever, dispatcher, you'll get notified when those exam things come out, and then you can look and see whatever one you like, and then we can follow the process.
Like I sign up to serve my country, but I can't drink, I can't do nothing. I really have
It's,
stuff.
life is not fair, is it? I know, I always said that, we hire people, we just did a 20-year-old, 120, but a lot of our sons went through the academy, and we are so old, 18.
Right, yeah.
It's so young, I should say.
Right, exactly.
18 and join the military and go serve in a foreign country, so I think we can mold 20-year-olds, yeah.
How are you guys competing at the city of Niagara Falls, because with the pay scales and everything?
It's different. We're not really competing with them. They have their own civil service exam. In order to work here in the Niagara Falls, you have to be a Niagara Falls resident.
Right.
So we get some applications out of the city of Niagara Falls. We have 12 other towns and 2 other cities, so we kind of pull from everywhere, versus Niagara Falls is just pulling from here. So, we're doing okay. I would tell you, we're filling our seats with qualified candidates, and we have a lot less applicants than we used to have. Which I'm still getting ample candidates, but I'd like to kind of see that go back the other way.
Like that with any profession right now.
It is, yeah, it's not just law enforcement.
Right.
If you look at the county website, you see jobs are virtually everything. Well,
And the pay.
it's crazy, yeah.
That's right. Kevin Smith.
Kevin
Son, Kevin Smith.
He's retired. Yeah, he used to work for us, yes.
Jacob, my son, was my son's best friend.
I can definitely not tell you, God. I remember when he was in bed, I was 8 feet tall, so yeah.
Yeah, it's, Kevin's.
Mhm.
Very, he coached my daughter in a lot of things.
Yeah.
Are you related to Felicitas in Niagara Falls, teacher?
So, Guido Felicetti, the teacher from way back?
Lauren, and then there's Lauren right
Okay.
now.
So Guido was a cousin,
Okay.
and then my great grandmother, lived on Grand Avenue. She lived to be 106 years old.
Oh,
Her mom, yeah. I'm hoping I. Yeah, maybe not. God lived everybody. So I do a little bit of Niagara Falls connection.
Okay.
I'm born and raised in Lewiston.
Okay, that's it.
Anybody have any?
I know.
We want to turn the lights on.
Always.
Put her in the back, too. Put her in the back.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I'm Coach Eddie and I'm back. I approve this message.
I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Sorry, guys.
Does anybody need-
Is it better?